Hello YouTube, I'm Shane.
And I'm Caden.
He's a little man.
And welcome to the shed.
Alright, good morning. We're back to working on the Jeep today. So, unfortunately, little man is not with us. He is at school and not overly happy that I'm working on this without him, but things have to be done. And let's get in, I'll show you what's happening. Alright, I have a coolant leak going on. Now, I know in the last video, haven't got around to editing yet, so hopefully it'll be up sometime soon. We changed the radiator hoses and mucked around with a thermostat. There was all kinds of dramas with that. I did that because I noticed that it was getting low. And I thought, well, it hasn't been changed in a while, so maybe there's just been evaporation or something like that that I haven't noticed. Anyway, there's not. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here under the car, obviously you can see gearbox and engine. Right here, all through there, that's obviously signs of coolant. Now, you can't really see it, but it looks like it's coming right from the top of the back of the engine. So what I'm hoping is that it is the oil cooler housing. So I'll show you what my plan is. Alright, a new oil cooler housing. This is the Dorman aluminium one. Anyone that's familiar with the Pentastars will know that it's usually plastic. So we're going to install this. Hopefully it will show that the plastic one's cracked and that's where it's leaking from. Either way, it looks like it's coming from the back of the engine somewhere. So if it's not this, hopefully I'll be able to see where it's coming from. Right, while we're there, I have the new lower to go on. So I'll throw that one on. I can explain a little bit more with that a bit later. And while we're in it as well, I figure may as well throw the new spark plugs and new injectors in. So, what do we got to do? Alright, first off, we've got to pull the airbox out and the intake system off. The upper has to come off, and then down underneath here, the lower has to come off to access. This is obviously where the filter cap is. It's all under there. Injector rails are hiding around the place, and spark plugs are under, so that's why I'm doing all of them. So let's crack into it then. Alright, so this isn't going to be a how-to video because I'm sure there are plenty of better videos out there than what I could ever do, but I will point out a few things as I go. So no matter what intake or you're running, intake air temperature sensor has to come off. That usually sits up close to the throttle body here, so that'll come off. Obviously, throttle body's going to have to come off. You're going to have to disconnect the wiring here. Map sensor needs to come off. These pipes need to come off, and there are a few brackets. I'll point them out as I come to them along the way too. So let's keep going. Alright, so I'm only this far in. Lower is still on and everything like that, but the upper's taken off. I've spent a bit of time making the upper all pretty. So I've now taped up the upper with some reflective heat tape. Hopefully that will help intake temps. It matches the matches all the rest of the intake now. So let's get back into it. Time to pull the lower off and the injector rails out. Alright, so I've got the lower off now. It was a bit of a struggle. There's just so much stuff in the way on the Jeeps. Fuel rails just sitting here for the moment. Now there is a lot of junk all through this area, so what I'll do is I'll grab the vacuum and give it a bit of a clean up first, stop anything going into the motor. I might even grab out a little spy cam and just check, make sure there's nothing going on. And then I'll pull the filter housing, the cooler housing off. Now I don't mind working on cars, but when you got a lifted four-wheel drive, it does make it hard. Step there, I really need something, those steps that go on the tyre. Anyway, I'll just jump up here, and there was some rags in here, but they've just fallen out, so, or been taken out because they were getting in the way. So I've lifted this up. You can see it looks like some coolant there. I think there was some on the other side too. And some there. So it looks like the bottom of the cooler filter housing has broken. So now we've got to try to get this clamp off, the coolant hose clamp, which is the devil, and then be able to pull this out. Right, hooray, it's out. Oh, that was a bit of a rigmarole. There you go, you can see, obviously it looks like it's failed down the bottom there. So coolant should stay inside the engine, not out. Anyway, I'll grab the other one and do a quick side-by-side comparison so we can see the differences. Alright, so here's a quick and nasty side-by-side of the two, besides the fact that the Dorman is aluminium and the factory is plastic. So in about 2014, there was an upgrade done on certain little parts of it. They changed the filter housing slightly as one of them. So obviously you'll notice, now if I get this wrong, I'm sure the internet can correct me, but you've got the oil bypass valve in the filter housing itself on the old style one that came out of mine in 2012. In the new style, it's in the lid. So therefore, obviously, there's a difference to the two filters. That's a new filter I just pulled off the shelf for the old one. And this one just drops straight in like normal. The other big differences are the bolt pattern. So as you can see here, you've kind of got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holding the actual oil cooler on here. There is just the 1, 2, and I suppose these ones kind of hold it on as well, but it doesn't stick out as much. The other thing that you'll notice when you look at them side by side, it's a bit hard to do here, but this oil filter is actually larger, it's taller. Not by a huge amount, but by a little bit. I might just go grab the calipers and actually check it and see, let you people know. But yeah, that's basically it. I bought new sensors to go in, so I didn't have to pull the old ones out. And this should, keyword being should, just drop straight in. So we'll give it a crack and see how it goes. Alright, old spark plugs coming out, new ones going in. Alright, so spark plugs are in, all 6. Standard coil still. Alright, oil cooler is in as well. Now I'll show you the bolt pattern. So it goes 1 at the front, 2 at the back, 3 towards the front, 4 at the back, move out of the way, and 5. Now the torque spec for that is 12 Newton meters. I believe that's 9 foot-pounds. And what I found is I put it on, thought it was on, and I'd do them up, I'd go around and I'd do the pattern, and I'd have to go back, and I did it about 4 or 5 times. But it's in now, so hopefully it won't leak. Let's move on to putting the lower back on. Alright, so I'll give you side by side of the new lowers as well. So here is the old one. As you can see, they had this injector bung, hole, bump, whatever you want to call it. And it runs the whole way down the runner. Now, this one doesn't have it. It's only got that little bump at the bottom there where the injector's actually sitting. Now, if I remember correctly, that means the volume of this runner is 43 cc larger than the old ones. Supposed to give better, well, basically it's going to make it a larger runner as such, and they're just supposed to be overall better. Now I have, as you can see, put reflective tape over all of that. I don't think that's really going to be a measurable difference as it's after the intake air temp sensor, but every little bit counts. So we'll just see how it goes. Alright, what I'll also try to do is give you a show or comparison of the old to the new injectors. So obviously these are, let's try to get them into focus, these are the old ones that have been in for 185 odd thousand Ks, and these are the brand newies. So obviously these are pretty old and and junky. These are the new. So I'll see if you can see. I don't know if you can really make it out, but these have 8 smaller holes than these 4, so they don't flow any more fuel at all. They're ultimately the same same fueling. I can't remember what that is now. Might be 370 odd cc. I could be wrong. Can't remember. But either way, they still flow the same, but it's supposed to atomize the fuel better. So basically giving kind of a better idle, better economy, that type of stuff. Either way, I'm putting in the new lower, so new injectors. See how it goes. Alright, the other thing I forgot to mention when upgrading to the PUG lower is you have to pull the old bolts out of your original lower and swap them over. So they easily just screw out of the holes that they're in. Just takes a while. And I'm just doing them one by one to make sure I get them all. So that comes out and goes into the other side. And screws in. So I will go through, do all of that, and then hopefully be ready to install this in. Alright, so as you can see, the lower intake is on, the new one is on. The injectors are sitting there in it, and I just have to tighten all the bolts down now. I will put up a picture of the tightening sequence because there are 8 bolts and I'm not going to remember that off the top of my head all the way around, but it's to 71 inch-pounds, which is about 8 Newton meters. Now if you want a good how-to video, check out Motor City Mechanic. So far I have found him to be the best hands down with Pentastar fixes and specs and all of that type of stuff. So I'll get into tightening this up. I can get the fuel rails back on, I can get the upper intake back on, tidy it all up, and hopefully that'll be it. So let's go for it. Alright, so the upper intake is on, and I'm not going to lie, I actually don't mind the look of all of this with the heat reflective tape on it and everything. Like I said, if it does anything, so far we'll see. I know when I did just the pipe that went from the airbox to the throttle body, logging that, there was a slight downward trend in the intake air temps. So now that I actually have the whole airbox, the pipe, the upper intake and the lower intake, I'm hoping each one does just a little bit, and yeah, it just helps. I'm not expecting miracles, but it just helps a little bit. Anyway, there are all the bolts on this. Again, I will find, or I'll do my best to find a picture of the bolts, the pattern to do them up with, and the amount to do them up was 10 Newton meters. I think that's 89 foot-pounds. So I'll get into that, and we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Alright, so sanity check. I have a big mess, but looking in my little tool tray, bolt tray, the bolts to the left are for the skid plate, which I had to take off because I dropped a bolt earlier on. Anyway, if we look up into the engine bay, top's back on, the bracket holding this little clip and doohickeys on, that's still sitting off because it goes onto the intake. Move around to here, throttle body's on, throttle position, sensors in, map sensors in, air intake temperature sensors in, lid fits on just like normal, all the bolts on the side are done up, everything's done up. What I will do is jump in, I'll kick the key over, see if there's anything that happens. Then if that's all good, I'll throw some oil just into here to top it up. and then we'll kick it over and see how it goes. Alright, so got the ever-present laptop plugged in, ready to scan. But first off, let's just kick this over. Doesn't look like there are any fuel leaks anyway. Can't smell anything. I'll kick it off and kick it on a couple times. Let's see what happens. Now, start scanning, and hopefully this thing starts. Oh wow. I didn't expect it to kick over that quick. Alright, well, I'll plumb it all back up and make sure it doesn't leak anywhere. It's a good start. Alright, so had it running for a little bit. Everything seemed alright. At first there was a leak coming from the gasket or like the seal of the lid to the housing itself. Now I don't know why that was. It was just weeping a little bit, so took the lid off, had a look, couldn't see any obvious damage anyway. I've put it back on and it seems to have stopped. So I've let the car idle for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Didn't blow up, so it's a good start. Obviously I've got all the intake back on. Basically I'm going to clean up everything. I'll take it for a drive around the block and just keep an eye on everything for, I don't know, the next while. Hopefully it'll be all good and I don't have to pull it back down because that was not enjoyable. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this and see you later. Alright guys, just a quick little encore onto this video. I realised it was done a while ago and I'm just editing it now. Sorry about that. But you would have seen in the video that I mentioned about the oil cooler. I had to go around multiple times tightening it up. Now, what ended up happening was that a oil leak appeared after doing this. Not a crazy one, but enough to notice it. So what I ended up having to do the next week was pull all of that back down again. I took the oil cooler off and I'd actually pinched one of the O-rings. I can't remember which one it was now, but oh goddamn rain. Anyway, so I replaced that O-ring, put it all back on, made sure that I had pushed it down properly this time, and it was stuck down before I went through and tightened them up. And that has fixed the problem. I've now put, I don't know how many Ks on it, and it's been perfectly fine. So I just thought I'd add that in to anyone doing this. Make sure that when you put, whether it's a stock oil cooler or a Dorman one or whatever, make sure that when it's on, it's actually firmly pressed in before you go tightening it. Because all I can assume is as it's been going down on the angles and whatnot, it's pinched one and just had a small leak come through. So anyway, on that note, this is the real sign off. Have a good one.